Hi, gorgeous, beautiful being. Oneness evolving here inside my lounge, strolling around in my lounge, because it's wet outside, and I'm going to show you rocks, but I also feel like walking around, so I'm going to walk around a bit and show you rocks, and then I'm going to sit down and concentrate and tell you what I've been doing this morning. But before I do that, because I know it's going to take a little while for this live to show up, and that's why I do rocks. Here I have a piece of New Zealand greenstone, and this one's really cool. Just see how close I can get it and what sort of focus I can get. You can see it's really quite mottled. It's pretty dark. A lot of greenstone is lighter than this one, and I don't know whether it's been smoothed by a river or by an artist or both. Well, obviously both. I don't think this one came out rough, but it may have been polished a little bit. I don't know, but it's just really nice, kind of mossy. Let's try and get, yeah, there you go. That should be close, hopefully. So there it is. There is this beautiful piece of greenstone. Nephrite jade is what it is. And it shows up in various places in New Zealand, and I was given this piece, and it's lovely. And in case you've just jumped on and you're wondering, why is she showing me rocks when you're talking about manifestation? It's because this live takes a little while to get bedded in on the internet and shared around the place and all of that. And I like to share rocks while I'm waiting for that to happen. And it gives us a chance to get together and sort of talk and say hello. And I'm walking around in my lounge today because I do not feel like sitting down. So, piece of nephrite jade. This is the very first crystal I ever enjoyed. And it sat in the china cabinet when I was a small person. I think my mother must have picked it up in England. Don't know. But there it is. And I know that it's got copper bits in it, whether it's azurite or malachite, I don't know. But it's lovely. It's varied. It's kind of gnarly. And I just felt like showing you that today. It's got this beautiful face with all of these different colours and shapes and textures on it. And I really enjoy that, so I just wanted to share that with you. My very first, if you like, rock. And I ended up with it. It lives at my place now. So, and it's got the sort of browner bit. I mean, copper can also make brown, but of course I really like the blue side. So there's that. And last but not least, something that's not raw at all, is this beautiful, I really enjoy this. This is yellow calcite. I'm going to see if I can get you, see the light goes through it. It looks almost white, but it is really golden calcite, and it's quite beautiful. And I just like turning it and seeing the different planes in it. You can see that the way calcite is structured, it's got that angle, like I'm holding it so the lines are going horizontal. And then it's got the other lines are not at a right angle. It's a wheezy watsy different angle. I don't know what it is, but I really enjoy it. And so this piece at the top that's above the line is actually paler, I think, than the rest of it, which is yellow. Hello, lovely people. It's great to see you. I'm just showing off a few rocks while everything gets bedded in here. The internet takes a while to wake up to things, and people take a little time to see stuff. But here I am, I'm in my lounge because it's raining outside. Hi, Belle, lovely to see you. Thanks for saying hi. And I'm going to put my phone on this. If you could see, you'd laugh. I've made myself a little not leaning Tower of Pisa, and I'm just going to put it there so that I can not have to hold it. And I've got a new little book. I'm very excited. I started the first book when I started doing lives and realised I needed a few notes. I looked back and I think it was the 23rd of October 2023. So I've been doing these weekly lives for a little while now. And I always put a cushion on my lap, just getting myself organised here. So I've been writing about stuff that's about being God of me. And for me, really, being God of me means I should be able to create what I desire in my life. And not necessarily, I mean, the classic thing, the example is, well, I want a house, so therefore I have to find one and I have to get a mortgage and then I have to spend a lot of time paying things off. I mean, that's how most people think you get a house. Hi, Belle. Yeah, it's been yonks. Because I've been doing this once a week now for a while. I used to do this every day. But this has changed as well. You see, I have this project. It's called God of Me, and there is a link down in the description to my Patreon, which will tell you very succinctly what God of Me is about. And in short, it's about me realizing that the changes that I was making in my life because of the work that I have learned to do and the information that I've learned and put together in my head and in my heart about how to change your life from Dr. Joe Dispenza, which really has changed my life, was available to anybody who had a credit card and a bank account. Just being really blunt for a minute. But because of what was going on in my life at the time, I realized there were a ton of people who didn't have a credit card because they didn't have any money, and they didn't even have enough money to have identity papers, so forget about a bank account. And how the hell were they going to learn about this? You know, because they should be able to make a decision whether they want to know or not, because everybody wants to change their lives, not just people with credit cards and bank accounts who can buy stuff and learn and read and, you know, all of that. And so I got this crazy idea that I wanted to start writing down what I was learning and what I had learned and all of that, and turn it into something that these people could access for free and somehow make it pay me money as well. And I've got ideas for that. But then it was like, well, how do I do that? And that, long story short, has turned into me spending one Wednesday morning a week writing, because I got to get this stuff into, if it's going to go on the interwebs, the first thing you have to do is write some words. And so I've been writing about this, and I spent about a year talking about why is it so damn hard to change. Be happy. What do you mean be happy? I've got all these reasons why I feel sad and why I can't change that. And that was me, right? That was me for 50 more years. And now I understand how to change. Now I understand why change is hard, and that understanding has empowered me to overcome the fact that it's hard, because I know what's going on and I can make different choices and I have tools and all that stuff. And then I started just getting really pissed off, and I got inspired because I read some books that Dr. Joe recommended. It's like, okay, you have these masters who can manifest stuff out of thin air, really, out of thin air, and not just 2,000 years ago. I mean, in the last 50 years, and besides, there are people doing it now. Well, why can't I? Why can't I? And so I'm kind of on this mad journey to figure out a model for how I can and how other people can, because if I can do it, because other people are doing it, they just don't happen to be me, well, maybe I can untangle this and make it something that people can understand, and then it's no longer a mystery or magic or God. It's just us doing stuff that is actually perfectly sensible, but nobody's understood it up until now. So that's really what God of Me is about. And so, cutting to the chase, right now, in the last little while, I've been writing about this weird thing that people think, what the hell is that? Why should I even be interested? That's called entrainment. And the reason why entrainment is really cool, and the reason why it has something to do with the dirty little secret about manifestation, I thought, well, that's a bit clickbait, but it really is a dirty little secret, is that we see a master like Yeshua, that many people will call Jesus, and think, well, what was the deal? There were 5,000 people, and if we're to believe the story, which I actually do, well, then, there were 7 loaves of bread and 2 fish or whatever it was, and there were 5,000 people, and they all got fed. What the hell happened? And I've sort of gone down this rabbit hole of learning from Nassim Haramein, who's been doing what he's been doing for 35 years now. And he and his scientific team have actually, they've unified physics, which is like, what the hell does that mean? It means really that they have found the mass and the structure and something that I can understand. I mean, I've got a brain and I think, and I've had to work to learn it, but I'm not a physicist, and I look at those equations and I don't understand them. But I can understand the structure of how matter works. And more important for this topic, I can understand now that everything, there's this void, there's the unified field, there's infinite potential, there's infinite energy. We call that source, we call that God, we call that whatever you want. But something happens that organizes that stuff into what we call matter. And that is understood now. It's actually understood. This is what happens. And so I'm thinking, hell, does that mean that I could use that? And the weird thing is, it kind of seems like I can, because I keep practicing it in my meditation practice, doing Dr. Joe's work, and interesting stuff happens from time to time. But more's the point. The way that it happens is emergence. And emergence, in case you wonder, is what happens when a school of fish is behaving like one organism, or a flock of birds, the murmuration of starlings. That is an emergence. And when you have a whole crowd of people and they move as one, that's an emergence too. And emergence is actually a form of entrainment. And matter, really, is the unified field that's all random and disorganized but vastly full of energy and potential. And it gets entrained into things by frequency. And we emanate and are frequency. Which should mean that if we know how, we can entrain stuff out of the field into matter ourselves. That's my point. That's why entrainment is exciting to me. Sounds pretty boring until you realize, oh my God, is this how stuff actually happens? So, I've been unpacking entrainment in my writing. Now we're getting down to, the nitty-gritty of today. And I have to frame this, otherwise it's going to make no sense at all. So, I kind of want to apologise for taking half the time framing it, but I think that's important, so I'm not going to apologise. Anyway, so that's the dirty secret. And what I've been talking about is there's a really cool little video on YouTube where there's a table and there are 32 metronomes on it, 4 rows, 4 rows of whatever. Of metronomes, 4, 8 to 32, there's 8 metronomes in a row and the 4 of them. Right. And these hands come along and they make all the metronomes go tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. And they're all everywhere, right? And then over the space of about 4.5 minutes, what you see is that somehow the metronomes magically start to all tick-tock together. And it doesn't happen all at once, and it's a big mess at the beginning, and then you start to see, there's 2 or 3 of them going together, and then it spreads. And that's very cool. But I wanted to explain more clearly in a bit more depth what the hell's actually going on there. Because again, if I'm going to entrain the field to my frequency, it's got to be a coherent frequency. If you're just, nothing's going to happen. You've got to have a coherent heart and a coherent brain to do that. And Dr. Joe will teach you that. And eventually, I might even teach you how to do that in my own way. That's down the track. You've got to have coherence. You can't be incoherent and blah about it. That's not going to happen. But, so that is entrainment. But it takes a bit of practice, right? It takes a bit of practice to say, here's all this disorganized stuff in the field, and I've got to pull it into entrainment somehow. How does that work? And I wanted to pull this whole thing of the metronomes apart so that we can understand that better. Because if you understand it, well then, you understand the process, and that's always helpful. And so I looked up, I did a bit of research on the interwebs, and this was the part that really fascinated me. So you have all these metronomes going tick-tock, tick-tock all over the place. And each one of them, it's a thing, it's got a swinging arm. And when that arm swings, it activates a clicker at the bottom, And each time that click happens, it's a sound wave. It is a waveform of sound that goes out from the source when the thing goes click. And when you have more than one waveform, like even if you just have 2, they're going to interfere with each other. And earlier in this, a few months ago now, I talked about a physics experiment that I did when I was much younger, or when my body was much younger. I'm eternal. It's my body that changes. I don't. Except I do. I'm evolving, right? But these 2, it was my first experience of understanding, oh my goodness, here are 2 things making waves in water, and when they meet, it makes an interference pattern. And that was kind of a wow moment for me. So you have the same thing when you have 32 metronomes all ticking. There's an interference pattern. But the thing about the experiment that I did when I was a kid is these things were in sync, and so you got this beautiful coherent interference pattern. With all these metronomes, it's a big bloody mess. So how does it turn from that into they're all ticking together? What happens is, as the arm swings and it pushes out these sound waves, right? And you have all of these different sound waveforms. I'm being quite careful with my words. And they're all going all over the place, but each one of them is like this. And sooner or later, of all those 32 different waveforms going everywhere, at least 2 of them are going to get in sync. Like those two little motors that were tapping the water, they did it together. I got a coherent waveform when I was 16. So the same thing's going to happen. There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of chatter, there's a lot of disorder. But 2 of those waveforms eventually are going to end up, oh, hello, I found you. Let's go together for a while. So they do that. And what happens when you have a wave, you have peaks and troughs. And if 2 waves of the same kind stack up, what you have is the same wave, but it's got more energy. It's got more strength, more power than all the others. I mean, let's just say, you've got 32 metronomes all ticking. 2 of them are now ticking in sync. They've got twice the power of all the others. Okay, so what happens? Well, that twice the power waveform rearranges all the others. And I was trying to think how to explain that. So if you think of, you drop a pebble in the water and the waves go out, right? So imagine that there is a whole lot of that happening like when rain is falling in a puddle. But as opposed to raindrops, you drop a pebble, quite a big pebble. This is a bit of a rough example, gives you the idea. If you drop a big pebble in that puddle with all the little blip blip blips in it, all the little blip blip blips are going to get washed out by the wave of the big rock that you dropped in the puddle. So if we bring it back to the example, 2 metronome tick is twice as strong as the 1 metronome tick. So it's not going to be you're completely gone, but it's going to push back against it. And this is actually physically what happens, is that when the waves start to stack up, they start to entrain, they have more power, and they literally physically adjust the other waves to be more like them. So if the 2-wave thing is going like this, and another one comes along, and its high place is too soon. It's not going to sync up with this because it's coming in a different phase and it's too soon. What happens is that the stronger one here actually pushes back and slows the other one down. It's like if you have a line of people walking along, they're marching in sync, and then the leader walks into an invisible wall and the wall is going back the way they came. Everybody stops in a big hurry and reverses direction. They got no choice. And that's what literally happens, is those sound waves of the weaker thing, because it's only 1 metronome, gets pushed back by the one that's 2, pushed back, and it literally pushes on the arm of that swinging metronome and bangs it around and changes it, slows it down and speeds it up. That's what happens. And if you translate that to the thought of your frequency that's broadcasting into the universe, that actually is literally what we have to do. And you can start to understand why it takes time, sometimes a little bit, sometimes a lot. And there's more to the story of the metronomes. So, because you don't just do it once and then it happens. Those 2 metronomes, they stack up and it's exciting, and they bash a few of the other metronome arms around, and they slow down and speed up a little bit. But there's so much chaos going on that they fall out of sync again, and everybody's chaos again. Except that a couple of those metronomes have changed a bit. And this is like us. We get all excited about a goal. We start putting out the vibes, whatever it is you do. And then, something comes along, we get sick, or there's a setback, or you have a relationship breakup, or whatever else. It's like you lose it. That's normal. This is the dirty secret. We all think we beat up on ourselves because we don't just get into it and we're all there and it's totally all perfect in 5 minutes or 2 weeks or whatever. Some things take time. And this is why. Because you go back to the 2 metronomes. They've made a few imprints, right? There's a few things that have been pushed a little bit into a different place. And then they sync up again, because it's going to happen, because they're just ticking away. They synced up once. They're going to sync up again. But this time it's a little teeny tiny little bit easier. And they do it again, and they push a few more things around. And then they fall out again, just like us. And then they sync up again, and this time they stay a bit longer, because it's got easier. And this keeps happening until the point at which those two metronomes don't go out of sync anymore. There's enough order around them that they've created by going in and out and in and out that they stay in sync. And it's like, cool, we've got the vibe. But where's my thing? There's still a lot of mess all around me. The rest of the table is all over the place. It's not like it just appears. This is the process. So they have to keep going. But what happens is, because, their frequency is stronger than everybody else's, because they're double, and then there's another one actually gets permanently entrained to that, and now there are 3. And then those 3, so putting out 3 times the strength, and that pushes the other metronome arms around more strongly, so they get pushed into sync faster, and it spreads, and you can see it in this video. It spreads. If you just go to YouTube and put in a search of 32 metronome synchronization, you will see the video and you'll see what I'm talking about. It is a beautiful example of entrainment. But we don't realize that when we're doing this, we get it, we lose it, we get it, we lose it, we get it, we lose it. But every time we get it, even for a short period of time, we make an impact. We can't see it. Still looks like a mess out there, but we've changed something. So we have to keep going. Hi, Julian. Great to see you. Hello, everybody who's here. It's lovely to see you on, whether you comment or say hi or whatever. So this is the thing. We really do think that manifestation should happen fast. And sometimes it does. You think of your friend and they call you. And sometimes you just think, I want a job, and you go to you look up the thing and you go to an interview and you get it. And sometimes people search or create or whatever, hi Robin, for a long time and nothing seems to happen. And I know what that's like. I've had stuff appear really fast, and there are things I've been working on for 6 years and they're not here yet. So it just depends how much chaos there is in us, by the way, most of all in us, that we have to entrain within ourselves and then hold there until the rest of whatever else it is, because it's people and lands and politics and whatever. There's a lot that's got to entrain to some of the things that we desire to change. So this is why you can be, like me, years into the things that you're working to create, and they're not here. And it does not mean that you are A, failing, or B, can't do it, or C, are not doing it. All it means is that despite the fact that you don't even understand why it's not there, that there's something and this is for me, I just keep asking, what more do I need to change? And I'll give you a big clue. This is the thing for me. If I start feeling pissed off that it's not here, if I start feeling afraid that it's not here, if I start thinking, oh, what's going to happen? Is it going to be fast enough? That exists in me. And that is not a frequency that says, I have my desire. That is a frequency, remember, it's frequency that entrains. That is a frequency that's saying, I don't have it. So I have to change that. It's nothing to do with out there, except that what's out there is feedback that tells me who I'm being. Because the universe is not some person up there keeping a scorecard or something that dishes out rewards and punishments. It really is pure and instant and absolutely unhackable. Who we are in overwhelmingly over time in each moment is what we somehow have in our lives. And if you think, but I'm not the ghastly, awful, rotten stuff that's happened to me in the last little while, that's a much deeper question, really is. My own feeling about that, and I'm going to be careful saying this because people would say I would never have done this, is that as a soul, not as a conscious person who's in a body going, ow, that fucking hurts. As a soul, we choose our really big challenges and the really big events and the important people and situations in our lives. Because as a soul, before we come in here, we just know, I got to overcome this situation. I haven't managed to do it yet. I have to overcome this. It's not about lessons. It's about, I just have to figure this out as a soul because it's stopping me from evolving any further. Because that frequency is buzzing away in my field and I want to change that frequency so I can get closer to being pure love. That's all. So we're all in the process of entraining ourselves to something greater, and that's just the journey. That is really why I chose the name Oneness Evolving, not because it's me saying, oh, I'm everything. That's just what I'm doing. And I believe it's what we're all doing. So, that aside. So this is why entrainment is so useful to me to understand, because this is it. This is the how-to. This is what we actually have to learn to do. And remember, I've said, there's something that I've been working on for 6 years. I've also had things turn up in half an hour. So it's nothing to do with the process. The process is instant as soon as we actually are in training to ourselves and to what we desire. Hi, Mike. It's just the journey to get there. And I think that's why we all bother to come and be human. Not to punish ourselves or hurt ourselves, and not always to have a fantastic time. I think we come to overcome the parts of ourselves that we just haven't managed to do yet. That's my opinion. That's how, in fact, it's more than my opinion. It's what I find to be true for me. And if you don't agree, that's cool. Do what works for you. I just enjoy this, what I'm writing about. I enjoy the science of it. It makes sense to me and I can use it. So that's what I was doing this week. I really am excited about entrainment. It is manifestation actually happening, and it is what we do. And so I look forward to finishing this off, and I'm close. And then it is about, well, how the hell do you do it? And I'm going to unpack that next. For what it's worth, it's going to be fun because it'll be all about how I perceive and work with energy. And I know that many people struggle with that. And it sort of dawned on me recently that I seem to be good at it. It's a bit of a surprise. Like, why didn't everybody feel it like me? Anyway, that's what's coming next. So, until then, many blessings, much love. Thank you for sharing your time and attention and energy with me. I really appreciate it. If you're on YouTube and you got to hear, thank you, big love. I appreciate that too. And if you want more, check me out on Patreon because there's a lot there that you can have for free. Until next week, big love. Bye-bye.